As the official count of unemployment hits 32 million people, or about 14 to 15%, and likely to go up to at least 20, the Trump administration is renewing its efforts to attack food stamp recipients. Now, this is according to Jake Johnson of Common Dreams. After briefly backing off its push to implement a rule change last month involving work requirements, the USDA last Tuesday filed court documents appealing Judge Beryl Howell's stay of the administration's policies to limit states' abilities to waive work requirements for the SNAP program. So, now this is in a time of mass unemployment as it relates to coronavirus. Look, the economy has shut down. Yes, it is because the states have shut down and ordered many people to stay at home and close up certain businesses that are not deemed essential. As a result of that, of course, there are millions of people that are currently out of work. So now you can't just go and impose work requirements on people that can't find a job. Not only that, but understand, even if your state is starting to open up, you still will have certain number of jobs that won't come back because of the economic devastation. In fact, a new study by economists at the University of Illinois projected that more than 100,000 small businesses have permanently been closed since the pandemic was declared in March. It's 100,000 small businesses. That's devastating. Those jobs are lost for good. Now, there was a fund set up for businesses to be able, small businesses to be able to get these government-backed grants, loans that turn into grants if you keep all your employees. But as we've seen, there's been rampant fraud in that. There have been giant companies coming in and taking the money that was earmarked specifically for small businesses. And so that deprived other actual small businesses of those loans. So they could not take advantage of it. And then, of course, what happened? They didn't get the money and they went out of business. That means jobs. Those jobs are gone. So even if your state is opening up, you're still going to have an additional lot of unemployed people that will not or might not be able to find those jobs to satisfy work requirements and therefore will not be able to feed their families. This is a problem. We're literally in a depression now, and you can't just go and say, hey, work requirements for food stamps, work or die. That is a ridiculous choice. I mean, look, who would do this? How could you consider putting in those work requirements for food stamps with what could be up to 20% unemployment by the summer? You do so if you're a monster and you don't give a damn about the facts, especially when the facts are massively against you. Analysts have warned that the economic crisis and the need for food stamps will persist long after coronavirus is effectively contained. And we're not even there yet. We're not even at the contained part, right? That's why a lot of the coronavirus proposals coming from progressive Democrats are a UBI and expanded food stamps and unemployment benefits. Because you're going to have a situation that is going to, again, once we contain this, we're going to have to pick up the economy. It will be in a depression. We are in a depression, and it's going to take time to ramp things back up. It could take years to recover, depending on what government action is actually taken. And so far, what we've seen is very limited government action. And the only strong government action was to help corporations, to prop them up. It's disastrous. Disastrous. Trump and the rest of the Republicans are pushing for poor people to go back to work, to risk their lives in order to not have to pay them these unemployment benefits or authorize a UBI for the duration. Right-wing pundits safely at home in their luxury houses are telling you to go out and risk your life, telling you not to wear a mask. Oh, don't worry, that's a hoax. Everything's fine. Coronavirus, hoax. It's not real. Go ahead and spread it around. Go to these rallies, right? Go to your state houses. Bring your guns. Because, we got to bring our guns, right? But not your masks. Don't do any social distancing. It's fine. This is Democrat hoax to hurt Trump anyway. Well, that's what they're saying. But it's anything but a hoax. It is real, and it can have deadly consequences on you and your family. And anyone you come in contact with could be a carrier, or you yourself could be a carrier and infect everyone else. It's not like this information isn't common knowledge by now, right? We've been in this long enough to know what the CDC is saying and what the CDC recommends. And yes, at the beginning of this, the CDC had different recommendations because of the knowledge they had at the time. Then our knowledge of the virus, even though there's a lot of stuff that we don't know yet, continues to increase by the day as scientists sit down and they study it, and they study the effects that it's been having on the human body. And so those recommendations over time do change based with the knowledge that we gain from studying this thing. So to say that, oh no, but the CDC, they've changed the recommendations. Why did they change them? Because we knew less back then, and now we know more. It's ridiculous, right? But again, Fox News, speaking of the recommendations, Fox News knows, right? They're following the recommendations. They're telling their news hosts to stay home for an extra month. But those same hosts are telling you that it's okay to leave the house and go out and die. That's because they don't care about you, man. They care about their stock portfolio. And that means opening up the economy and sending people back to work. No unemployment benefits, no UBI, no food stamps, because they want to cut that. What are you kidding? Pay people to stay home in a pandemic? What are you, nuts? No. My bottom line is way more important than you idiot, you sheep. Now go to work. Make my friends money. No, this is just another part of dismantling a public service in order to force you back into the, out into work, into the economy before the experts are saying that it's safe to go out. And they want to make sure that you're not protected. This is going to result in an explosion of infections and, yes, deaths. Republicans have been doing everything they can to ensure that poor people suffer through this pandemic. They really are. I mean, the Trump administration, Republican members of Congress, they blocked any effort to expand SNAP benefits to meet the needs of the struggling families. In fact, according to research recently published by the Hamilton Project, 1 in 3 households in the U.S. are food insecure amid the coronavirus crisis. I mean, one of the people that wrote this study, she said, these are households, this is Lauren Bauer, these are households cutting back on portion sizes, having children skip meals. The numbers are much higher than I expected. Now, if you care about rampant poverty, then instead of forcing people to go back and possibly infect their families, you would actually be pushing for short-term assistance in the form of food stamp benefits, UBI, and unemployment insurance. But they're not, because they don't actually care about human beings. I don't know how much clearer I need to be on that. They would rather have you suffer and die than give you just a tiny bit of socialism to survive. Especially if that means depriving their donors of even $1 extra. $4 trillion is good for large corporations, but a few extra bucks for you, well, that's completely unacceptable. Republicans, it's time to call them what they are, a death cult. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.